Hi, this is Carlene, Riley-Mercado, and I wanted to quickly talk to you guys about a possible paperwork change that would help our organization be a little bit more trauma-informed and help build the current spirit about collaborative documentation with our clients. So when I did some research, I was looking at the recent changes we've made to the staffing forms as well as the Family Consumer Review. And I really enjoy how the MSC is now part of our FCR on a regular basis. However, as part of this assignment on macro change, we were looking at examining agency policies and seeing what we could do to further improve a current policy in order to make the organization more trauma informed. And as I was looking at the MSC, I found that sometimes it is a little bit intimidating when families first see that form from firsthand experience, because now there's this new area with all these boxes. And of course, we're more than willing and should explain this section of the form to the clients. However, we might want to also consider the mini mental state exam, which is a fairly new research-informed tool that could replace the MSC. It is shorter, it's a little more straightforward, and it's a little bit more collaborative. So I have included the screening tool as part of this presentation, and I wanted to briefly go over it with you. The first section is about orientation. As you can see here, it's things like where are we at, what year is it, and then the second section is name 3 objects. For instance, a pencil, a dog, and a house. And then you go through the exam, and towards the end of it, you ask that patient to then recall the 3 things that you had said. The second is attention and calculation. And I notice here that the official documentation says to count by 7s, and I know that might be pretty difficult for children that we work with, and so I have looked at what the research says about altering this question, and counting by 2s seems to show very, very similar reliability and validity, and so you could replace that by counting by 2s or spelling the word world backwards, and it will not mess up the test if you actually spell the word world out for them. I did look into that as well. Then there is recall, which is those 3 objects that I just mentioned, seeing if the client can say it back to you. Followed by this last section where you would name a pencil and watch. That would be like if you had a pencil in your hand or a watch on your wrist, and asking the patient to say, what is this? And then verbally saying no ifs, ands, or buts, and asking the client to repeat that statement back to you. And then following a 3-stage command. This could be anything, but I really like the example. I take a piece of paper, fold it in half, throw it on the floor. And then this next section, read and obey the following. Typically people write that out, so they would write on a little piece of paper, close your eyes, and then give it to the patient and see if they can read that statement and then follow that command. If you are working with a child who is not developmentally at the point where they could read close your eyes, you could prompt them along with it, or you could say it verbally. Write a sentence, this could be any sentence, and then copy the design below. And here you have 2 house shapes or pentagons that intersect together. I know that's kind of a difficult picture to physically draw, and so in a revision for children, they've also done parallelograms or rectangles. The point here that's important on the pentagrams is that you have an intersecting piece and that there are corners. Circles would not work. For this particular thing, you need corners and you would need something intersecting. And so as you can see in this form, there's actually a total of 30 possible points. And so you would rate the client how they did, give them the most points if they did it well, if they did it partially well, maybe half points, things like that, so that your total score is 30, or what you can achieve out of 30. And 25 to 30 points would indicate normal functioning, so that's important to know. As you can see in this documentation, it is pretty collaborative, which is fun. It's short. It takes an average of 5 to 7 minutes. And I feel if a patient or client and their family were to see this form instead of the MSE, it would be a little bit more interactive and fun and less intimidating. So the spirit behind this change has to do with making sure that our documentation is trauma informed. So open communication is a key part of that, and we want our clients to feel comfortable disclosing information to us in forms. We also want to foster the collaborative process, and I feel like it would speak volumes for adult and child to not just see this as paperwork we have to go through, but to really look at it as a way that we can guide our conversation, and how we're saying things is often more important than what we say. And so I thought that was a key point of this proposed change. And then building on that, I liked a quote that I saw in a research article, because I did a 6-page paper on this as well, that says people have to be on board with the ideas of streamlining processes in order for it to be truly effective, because in the midst of all this exciting change, it is vital that the work being done never loses the intended meaning. And so of course, in the midst of these changes, we want to make sure that we're staying true to achieving the intended goals. And these are my references. So let me know what you think. I will not have my feelings hurt in any way, shape, or form if you do not like this change, but through additional research than what I have here even, I wanted to make this presentation short and sweet since I know you guys are busy. I've done quite a bit of research on this particular mini mental state exam and feel that it would be appropriate and helpful and fun for our clients. So thank you very much.